There's a type of person the world absolutely loves. They show up. They solve things. They never say no. Everyone around them feels better. But here's what nobody talks about. That person is exhausted. And the world? It has no idea. Because it never had to. Think about the last time a group of people had a problem. Who spoke first? Who mediated? Who stayed after everyone else left to make sure things were okay? Chances are, it was the same person every time. Maybe that person is someone you know. Maybe that person is you. Psychologists have a name for what that person experiences over time. They call it empathy fatigue. But the real damage isn't emotional exhaustion. The real damage is what happens to the people around them. Because here's something counterintuitive that researchers found in studies on group dynamics. When one person consistently resolves conflict for a group, the group's own conflict resolution skills actually decline. They don't just get lazy. They forget how. Let me tell you about a real experiment that changed how I see this completely. In the 1970s, a psychologist named Martin Seligman ran a series of experiments that produced one of the most uncomfortable findings in behavioral science. He found that when subjects repeatedly experienced discomfort they couldn't control or escape, they eventually stopped trying to escape, even when escape became possible. He called it learned helplessness. Now here's where it gets personal. Seligman's experiments were about pain, but later researchers applied the same framework to comfort. When someone in your life consistently removes discomfort for you, resolves your conflicts, absorbs your stress, cushions your falls, you can develop the same pattern. Not helplessness born from suffering. Helplessness born from being helped too much. You stop reaching for solutions because your nervous system learned someone else will reach first. And the person doing all that reaching, they didn't sign up for this. It just happened slowly. The way debt accumulates. The way a habit forms. One quiet yes at a time. There's an invisible contract that forms in relationships, in families, friendships, workplaces, and it almost never gets spoken aloud. It goes like this. You manage the chaos. We'll keep functioning. Nobody writes this down. Nobody agrees to it consciously. But once it's established, it runs silently in the background of every interaction. And if you're the one who accepted that contract, even unknowingly, breaking it feels almost immoral. When you stop showing up, it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like abandonment. That guilt is by far the most powerful chain keeping overfunctioners locked in place. Not obligation. Not love. Guilt. Because somewhere along the way, they confused being needed with being valued. Those are not the same thing. Here's a question most people never stop to ask themselves. What would happen if you just didn't? Not forever. Not dramatically. Just, what if the next time chaos called your name, you let the phone ring? Most people who overfunction have a quick answer ready. Everything would fall apart. But is that true? Or is that what the system wants you to believe so it can keep running on your energy? Researcher Harriet Lerner, in her work on family systems, describes how systems actively resist when one person tries to change their role. The resistance feels like proof that you're needed. It's not. It's just friction. Give any system long enough without its crutch, and it finds new ways to walk. The hardest part isn't stepping back. The hardest part is tolerating what happens right after, when things get briefly louder, messier, more chaotic. That moment is the test. Most people fail it. Not because they're weak, but because they've never been told that the noise getting louder first is actually a sign the process is working. There's a concept in ecology called a keystone species. It's an organism whose presence holds an entire ecosystem together. When keystone species disappear, even temporarily, the ecosystem doesn't collapse. It restructures. Other species fill gaps. New balances emerge. The system becomes, in many cases, more resilient than before. Human systems work the same way. When you stop being everyone's emotional keystone, you're not abandoning them. You're giving them back something they lost, the capacity to hold themselves. A therapist once described it this way, and it stuck with me. Every time you solve a problem that wasn't yours to solve, you steal someone's chance to grow. Read that again slowly. Not because it's comfortable, because it's true. But here's what nobody warns you about when you finally do step back. Your own silence will feel strange at first, because for many overfunctioners, being needed was the identity. Being the one who handles things was the personality. When you remove that role, even by choice, there's a vacuum. And that vacuum can feel like loss. Psychologists call this identity foreclosure. When your sense of self has been so tied to a function that removing the function removes the self. This is why so many people who desperately need boundaries still can't hold them. It's not weakness. It's not lack of discipline. It's that they don't yet know who they are without the noise. Here's the reframe that actually changes things. Choosing your own quiet is not selfishness. It is the most honest thing you can offer the people around you. Because a person running on empty can't genuinely give. They can perform giving. They can go through the motions of support. But there's nothing authentic left behind it. The version of you that has protected space, that has boundaries, that sleeps, that thinks clearly, that version helps better, loves better, shows up better. Not because you're doing more. Because what you give means something again. So ask yourself honestly, not out of guilt, not out of pressure. Where in your life are you carrying something that was never yours to carry? What argument are you mediating that the people involved should be working through themselves? What storm are you standing in that hasn't actually asked for your help? It's just gotten used to your presence. You don't have to announce anything. You don't have to make it dramatic. Just stop arriving so quickly. Let there be a pause. Let the space exist. And in that space, watch what grows. In them. And in you. If something in this video made you recognize a pattern in your own life, even a small one, drop a comment below. Just one word. Boundary. Not because it's a trend, but because naming it is always the first step toward changing it. And if this kind of content is what you come here for, subscribe. Because next week we're going into something even more uncomfortable. Why the kindest people in the room are often the angriest, and why that makes complete sense.